Clay Cockrell. We have a photo of him here. This is Clay Cockrell. What does Clay Cockrell do for a living?
Clay Cockrell.
He used to work on Wall Street, but now he counsels rich people on their problems. Wouldn't you just talk to that face forever? I
used to have a rubber clock, whatever.
Really? Clay Cockrell. It's a cock
ring, I'm thinking.
That's
I'm sorry.
All right, sorry. I skipped ahead in graphics, but this is the first one. He explains his job, which is to talk to rich people about what problems they may face. He says, I shifted toward it naturally from when he was working on Wall Street. We're trained to have empathy, no judgment, and so many of the uber wealthy, the 1% of the 1% he's talking about, they feel that their problems are not really problems, but they are.
They are.
Moving on. His thoughts continue.
Are.
A lot of therapists do not give enough weight to their issues.
No.
Clay Cockrell will let you pay him to give weight to your issues. There he is again. And he says, and then another person who has the same job says, I am not necessarily comparing it to what people of color have to go through, but she's not doing that.
She's not.
It really is making value judgment about a particular group of people as a whole. That's what you're doing when you think that rich people don't have problems. They do. You gotta read this article because it says the most amazing things. It says, like, it's a rainy Wednesday morning and Clay Cockrell is sitting in his office at Columbus Circle across the street from 1 Central Park West. In front of Trump Tower is Central Park, where Cockrell holds his popular walk and talk therapy sessions. So Wednesday mornings in Central Park, you can see that beautiful face, just helping people who have real problems.
Helping the needy.
Yes.
Just because they're multimillionaires or billionaires doesn't mean that they don't have needs.
The downtrodden rich.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
I'm not saying they're like blacks, you know.
I'm not saying that.
No, we're not saying that.
Because they're not black.
Because they're not.
Because they're not.
They're literally not black.
They're just not black. So I'm not. There's no way I could compare them to people of color.
Right.
This is now these guys have problems, right? Because no one understands the problems of the super wealthy. They need other super wealthy people to understand their problems of isolation.
Yeah.
Right? This is like, I know, you know who else has this problem is the terminally pretty, like supermodels. It's so hard for them. And then also rock stars with their endless stream of teenage pussy. How do they live?
Also live streaming. Live streaming for not as long as the Young Turks. Not as long.
Yeah.
No, and that's why they needed someone from that's their own to understand them.
Yes.
Like they couldn't normal therapist. No, so it's a former Wall Street guy. It's like, I've been there, brother. I've made all that money. And I know your issues. Where do you spend it all? You go to Tiffany's right away? I mean, but that's just gonna go to the women.
Yeah.
You spend it on yourself first or your family first. I mean, you're not going to run out. You're not going to run out. All the regular stress that people have, you don't have it.
I love, though, that this is a new industry. Like, I love that. Like, I want to do this job for sure. Yeah. This is the best job ever. You've invented a new job where you just listen to people who are sad but have no right to be. Like, talk about how terrible life is.
Yes.
And if you can keep yourself from pulling out a gun and shooting yourself in the face, you're going to make millions.
So, look, now, putting the kidding aside for 1 second.
Okay.
Look, do some of them have real issues? Of course they do, right? And so, for example, being depressed is usually a chemical situation, right? So you can be depressed whether you're rich, you're poor, you're middle class, and not related to your money. Some people grew up rich and they never had any context.
Yeah.
So they're actually in a world of hurt in terms of like drug addiction, especially once you're third generation. You know, they have no incentives, they have no motive to keep doing anything. And so of course, I know that they have real issues. I'm sure they need to go to therapists. But I mean, but at the same time, I'm also incredibly aware that it's like, hey, dude, you gotta, like, I wish the therapist would say to them, okay, look, here's gonna be the therapy session. I'm gonna outline each therapy session. I'm gonna show you 3, 5, or 10 people who are in so much worse shape than you. And if that doesn't make you feel a little better, like, hey, you know what? Oh my God, look at all these things I have. Look at all the possibilities I have. Then I'm gonna give you drugs. And if that doesn't help you with the chemicals in your head, then you're hopeless, dude.
Right, he says a lot of it has to do with guilt for being rich. Like, this is what Clay Cockrell says in this interview. And if your guilt surrounds you having too much money,
you can get rid of it.
You could just give it to people.
That's Jimmy's therapy. Oh, I got a great idea for you. It's making you feel, give it to me.
Give it to me, and then I'll guard it, and then you can feel better, and I won't have these problems, right?
You can invest it in swimming pools and like great clothes.
So the problem is that according to this article that we're reading, is that they feel they are put upon because they're being castigated as bad people by society. That's the problem. It's not that they have to go see a therapist. It's the problem that they feel like they're now a put upon, scorned group, and they feel somehow that they're an oppressed minority group because there's so few of them, and now they're being castigated as bad people. Well, that's what happens when you're living in the Gilded Age and we're living in record profits, and only you guys are the ones who have rigged the system in your favor. So now the rest of the people who are creating all this wealth aren't getting to share in it. And you feel badly that you're a put upon person. That's your fucking problem. I mean, that's not a real problem.
Right.
And so that's what this is like. When you get to be rich. So what normal people have the shit slapped out of them when they want to go have a monkey be their best friend or put an amusement park in their basement.
And we're not saying that's not a great idea, is to have a monkey as a best friend.
Better than regular Pip. These people, again, so instead of going to if I had millions of dollars and I went to my friend and I said, I feel bad about it, he would probably punch me. Right, but you go to this guy and you've got so much money, he'll go, of course, give me some money. Of course you feel that way. That's horrible. You are put upon. So when you have enough money, people don't try to help you. They just indulge you, and that's what this fucking guy's doing. He's indulging these rich people.
He was, he was we have this graphic. I think it's a drawing of the state of Kentucky. What is this? There it is. Oh no, that's the inequality gap. The income gap and owned by the bottom 90% of families. We finally made it. They've touched. So the bottom 90% of families in America have as much as the top 0.1% of families in America. So we did it. So this, in 2000, I want to say 10 and a half, or 2002 or 12 or something, we did it. So at least we accomplished something. They got back to got back to one. So that's nice.
He says sometimes, because they talk about all the words they call the super wealthy, the 1% of the 1%. They call them inheritors, spoiled brat, born with a silver spoon in their mouth, trust fund babies, and all these things. It says it's easy to scapegoat the rich. Yeah, why don't we sit around trying to blame the poor? That's what I think we should be doing. Is that what he's implying? He goes, sometimes I'm shocked by the things that people say. If you substitute the word Jewish or black, you would never say something like that. You know why? Because it's fucking different. That's why.
Right. Just to clear up, that's not Clay Cockrell. That is Jamie Traeger Mooney. That's just a different person said that.
Yeah.
It's a different person.
So,
but
you
same
don't.
thing said.
To Jimmy's point, there's not a lot of unarmed Wall Street brokers being shot by cops, right? Because that's not a thing that happens.
Right.
So you don't have real problems. You have literally rich people problems, right? Like, oh gosh, I feel a little guilty about having all this money. Or wait, I wish people wouldn't say I rigged the system and got all this money. But okay, then look, if I was a therapist, I'd do three things. First of all, try to figure out if you really got a chemical issue and you have depression, I'd get you a pill. All right, if that's not the issue and you're having these bitch-ass problems, okay, then I would go to two things, right? I would say, one, here's a picture of a Syrian refugee. It's a kid with his teeth knocked out because a soldier did that to keep him out of their country, okay? Now, do you still have problems, dickhead? Okay, all right. All right,
there we go.
Now you understand. Go get yourself a fucking steak and a lobster. Do a surf and turf, and thank your lucky stars that you live on top of the world. On top of the world. Every day you should wake up and go to sleep thinking, thank you, Lord, thank you. Right. And number three, if you still feel bad and you feel like, oh well, they say I rigged the system, then goddamn it, unrig it.
Yeah.
Right. Go and say, hey, you know what? And maybe I'm a private equity guy and I'm paying 15 or 20% in taxes. That's ridiculous. I should at least pay as much as the guy who's working his ass off to be a doctor in Milwaukee. He's paying 39%. He's rich. He's not the richest of the rich. I am. Maybe I should unrig the system and pay the same 39% as your, orthopedic doctor in Wisconsin, right? I mean, at a bare minimum. Then you know what? You'll feel great about yourself. Maybe you should join Wolfpack and get our democracy back. You'll feel fantastic, right? You'll feel empowered. You'll feel like you did something and you helped the inequality gap and you helped our democracy. Go do something with your life that's positive and gives back, and you'll be shocked at how great you feel.
You know, I hate being called names because of how rich I am, and I feel guilty. Well, you give it away. Oh, I don't feel that bad.